There is an absolute frame of reference. There's no relative frame. Well, there is relative frames of reference, but they're not equal dynamically. But if it's containing rigid bodies, it can be equal kinematically. His argument is essentially that the Earth can't be spinning because we would see the effects of it, essentially. And they're like one frame of reference is not equal to another. And essentially, the reference frame that's like absolute is like the Earth, and the Earth is not moving. Is essentially his argument.
Yeah, the problem with it. Well, there's two problems with that. But I also heard that he believes something about Ares' failure. Like Ares' failure presents to him as
Talks about a bucket, the bucket.
Yeah, that Newton's bucket.
Yeah, essentially, you'd see there'd be a difference between the bucket spinning and the person above the bucket spinning, observing it, essentially. Hey, it's the Hammers themselves are here, dude. Look, right on cue, Shane and Toby.
That's what's up, man. But so yeah,
what he said about Smash, dog.
Smash. No, but what he said about what's his name? Ares' failure. He's also said that this is the part that kind of made me think twice about his, claims, because other than the fact that I disagree with all of them, but just him like being, I can rule right out the way if he thinks Ares' failure is evidence for the fact that like there's plain evidence that we're not moving. That's the last thing that it shows. Ares' failure. The conclusion to Ares' failure was he was trying to measure aberration with the water in the telescope, and it was supposed to be different than the aberration that he normally would get. But he ended up with is regular stellar aberration. So stellar aberration is the angle that the star is out of place because of the fact that we're moving in reference to the light. So that's like that. That's and the fact that Ares' failure measured stellar aberration, it's a failure for what he was trying to show, but it's a direct, measurement of you can directly measure the speed of the Earth around the sun from his test. So it's crazy.
Hey Kosho, it's cool that he's coming to chat with us tomorrow on Aether Cosmology. If you want to come ask him that question, that would be cool for everyone to witness.
Bennett, yeah, I was gonna watch his thing on Witsit. I'm probably gonna watch Witsit's interview with him a few times. I want to watch both of them first, but yeah, depending how long it is.
Well, for anyone else then who wants to come ask Bennett questions, he's gonna be over at Toby's.
I'm not saying I miss it. I'm just saying I'm gonna watch them probably tonight.
Yeah, no, I only wanted you, the one Glober, to come. I'm not really inviting all the other Globers, to be honest.
Yeah, no, but I was just saying the way you responded was like I wasn't gonna go. I'm just responding to that. But
I just wanted to know if you didn't come, that still I wouldn't want to invite all the other Globers. It's still just only the Kosho. Yeah. Just because you're asking this on-point question and you think he's a different result for Ares Philly. I mean, I understand your question, but I think that he precluded it with his answer in one of the interviews that he did for sure. But it would still be interesting to have a rational Glober speak to him and ask him the questions that he can, in my opinion, slam dunk on,
Yeah. That would be interesting. It just that one thing, it bothers me so much because it seems like a person that comes to that conclusion can't be right about like most of their other conclusions. You know what I mean? That's it's the exact opposite of what the evidence would show.
Isn't that a genetic fallacy?
Not necessarily, since I already disagree with his claims. I just was hopeful that they were coming from this place of mysterious research I'm not aware of. But it seems like it's not coming from that place.
So yes, genetic fallacy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, have you seen all of the Aether tests that he's talked about, for example?
Well, he refers to the Aether tests I'm aware of, but he also talks about some Russian ones that Witsit was saying. I haven't heard about those ones.
Yeah, he has some discrete corroborative analysis that we didn't even know some of the experiments he was talking about. But funnily enough, they always come to the same result,
It's It's fascinating.
It sure is, man. It sure is. Did you say that you had evidence for like measuring Earth's orbital velocity as well? Or did you throw that in there?
No, I didn't.
Oh.
I'm claiming that the thing that he claims is evidence that the Earth's not moving is simply evidence of exactly the opposite. um, and I don't know anyone who understands Ares failure and thinks anything different, because he's literally showing stellar aberration. That's why it's a failure, because he was expecting it to be different because there's water in there, but he measured like regular stellar aberration. But stellar aberration is a measurement that's based on the Earth's movement.
It's just based on movement. It doesn't have to be the Earth's movement.
Yeah,
sure,
you're
but
just
if
like
you have a
you're looking at
stationary,
yeah, you're just looking at the same thing through different interpretive frameworks, man. You're all under the impression, well, the Earth must be moving, therefore let me interpret everything that I see and measure under that framework.
but what would the alternative be?
Stationary Earth, moving ether.
But how would that make the light behave like that? I think that's the whole point, is that we're moving in reference to the light coming at us. So, yeah, I don't know. It doesn't matter. They said he's going to have that interview with him. He seems like a nice guy. He's doing all these interviews and stuff.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, it's not really an interview. We do this like weekly ether thing that we didn't know that he watched, and then we finally got him to come on. Since the last like 3 have just been discussing his work and his appearance on Witsit, it was funny to figure out that he was watching, and now he's going to come be a part of it. So yeah, it's going to be cool. He definitely is chill to be on Witsit show, and then come talk to other people. He's definitely like, I think he's super interested to have people who are interested in his work and want to like talk to him about it. It just like pumps him up.
But that's what I'm saying. I feel unprepared if I didn't, learn all about his,
I don't know, man.
all stuff like that, and then ask him questions. I'll probably definitely.
Honestly, I haven't even like watched the interview that he did on Witsit yet. I just been like talking to the boys about it in retro, and it seems to be going fine.
Well, can I ask you a question then? Because I was asking Witcher a bunch of questions about him, because after I heard Alan talk about him, I was just real curious, and I'm out of the loop. But what's what's sort of what's the appeal of his work to you and Alan and stuff like that? Like what's some of the work that's
He was interested in the ether work, right? So measurements that we had found showing that the rotating ether, right? When you're looking at the sky and you're measuring the sky, and you make measurements that correspond to the equinox and the solstice and literally the objects in the sky, but then claim that actually that movement is due to the Earth, that's backwards and counter to evidence, eyes, and science. And this guy has already come to that conclusion in his work. It's funny because he's not like a flat earther, right? He's not technically with all the stuff that we do, but we don't really care. The stationary Earth rotating ether framework is what we're all about, and he's on board with that. And everything that we're finding is corroborative with that. He has a whole bunch of other, like we talked about before, corroborative experiments that also found the same thing. Turns out every single experiment that we know about always comes back to the importance of the lab frame being able to measure in the one frame that emulates reality. And then you can add, kinematic equivalence, but it's never been proven dynamically, and he has all the same conclusions that we have, and he's done far more work on it, I guess. I don't know, man. It's super exciting to find someone who knew about the same, like, because the research that Alan had to do to find the stuff was buried so far. To get the PDFs required some modern ingenuity, so to speak, right? To even obtain all the research and evidence. So to find someone that actually published the research that we were quoting was pretty awesome.
It is cool.
I think he still believes in the moon landing, though.
Post a link to your server.
Yeah, we did. It's the event. It says Ether Roundtable number 8, Bennett tomorrow.
You posted it in the chat here.
Yeah. Did you have some opposing viewpoints, Jace? Some points of contention you perhaps wanted to bring up? Oh, he's gone.
He gone.
Oh.
I'm just not in your server anymore for some reason. I don't know if you made a new one or.
No, I don't think. I mean, you definitely weren't kicked or anything.
I think if I wasn't in there either, I think if you click on the Aether Cosmology 24/7, it takes you there.
Yeah, I just did. But yeah, I don't know. Right, the server that I debated Pillbox in back in the day. I don't know what happened. I didn't leave it, but apparently I'm not a part of it anymore. I don't know if that one got shut down or something.
Yeah, that was like 3 shutdowns ago, I think.
That's probably why then.
Yeah, we mostly just hang out at Toby's now. We're here. There has been like a schism since Demon Stride came on the scene, fooled us all, and then split into his own little community that took all the Globers. I don't know.
No. He's always coming through here looking for people to, I don't know, participate in a debate or whatever.
Yeah, I'm pumped to see people hanging out here again, to be honest. I like this place.
Kosho, what's the name of this guy you were talking about?
I'm going to post Witsit's interview with him.
Bennett?
Robert
Bennett. Yeah, I'm going to post Witsit's interview with him. Hold on. It'll have his name on there. Hold on.
Yeah, I just need his name.
Wait, it's Robert Bennett.
Cool.
It's interesting because like nobody.
Now, so hold on. I only see episode 3. Go ahead, sorry.
I was gonna say nobody actively in the field will come talk to us about this stuff. Like with the other people that we quoted, like Ruan Wang, the guy that linearized the Stagnite effect in 2004, he responded like with such enthusiasm when we asked about his work, and then we were like, okay, but the implications of your work with the ECI frame, and then he never said another word. People who are actively involved in the field are just, they fear repercussions, and they won't go outside, like they won't do anything that questions the status quo because they get threatened. But Bennett's already retired, so he's like, I don't give a shit. I'll talk to whoever I want. I already published my stuff. What are you gonna do to me?
Yeah, right. So yeah, Wayne got turned off. Kind of as when he was talking to Bennett. Is that what happened?
Yeah, because Bennett has this thing on the implications of the ECI frame, and that essentially makes stuff up, and that's not reality, and that's how you have to measure if you live in heliocentrism. And like Wang wouldn't answer any of those questions or stop talking about any of that stuff. And I guess he got pressured. Yeah, there's like some backstory I think that he told Bennett that Bennett told us with its presentation about it.
Maybe I will ask him some questions because I disagree with that too. Because that transformation is just a necessary component of, but it doesn't matter.
Honestly, I'd like to hear you ask him some questions because we're not really showing a lot of stiff dissidence to any of his points. We're just going to be a lot of agreeing, and 1 or 2, respectful dissidents would be appreciated.
Yeah, sure,
for sure.
Because I've heard Alan talk about the ECI frame as well, but I guess was he so he had read Bennett's work before making those presentations, I'm assuming.
Yeah, well, he had used Bennett's work to make those presentations, right? He had like sourced them, and then like Bennett watched one of the things, and he like wrote in his comments, and he was like, "Did Robert Bennett just subscribe to me? The same Robert Bennett that I just fucking works cited? Oh, that's cool."
I see. Definitely interesting. Interesting. Person to be in this community, especially for you guys. So, tell me if I'm correct though. Did you say that he actually found you guys? He said he was already watching.
Yeah, he was watching Space Audits, Alan's channel, because I guess when someone cites your work and puts it on public, you get like referenced, like a friend of a friend of a friend sees that, and things move, and people send emails. I guess I'd imagine.
The one thing Alan or what's it told me that was kind of strange was he wasn't familiar with Dayton Miller's work. You think find that odd?
I don't know if he's unfamiliar. That would be interesting if he was unfamiliar, though, because that's kind of like a giant leaping stone on the way to it. So if he had gotten there without that, that's crazy.
Yeah. He said because he said Witsit said he had a bunch of tests that Witsit didn't know, like the Russian ones or whatever. So yeah, I guess it doesn't matter where it comes from. It's probably this. Witsit made it sound like it was the same conclusions.
It's always the same conclusions, man. That's why it's so interesting.
Yeah.
Like repeatedly, the same conclusions to the like ad nauseum. So I mean,
yeah, my opinions on it would only be assumptive and some aren't worth anything. But I think Peyton Asher of all people made a good point about tests like that are taken at different elevations. Usually, they're taken underground to avoid any sort of vibration.
no, that's silly.
Why would the vibration always go in the same direction?
The tests are more sensitive the higher in the sky they go, i.e., they're measuring the sky. So, what do you do when you want worse measurements? You bring them as far away from the sky as you can, or directly underground. Let's make the arms different lengths. Let's put them underground. But, dude, no, like the actual objections that you raised, Kosho, even though you may use some assumptions, the assumptions you make, I think, embody the assumptions of probably the elevated globe community, and that's why I think your input will be valid.
Which tests are we talking about, Kosho?
Dayton Miller, you made a point a while back about the elevation, making creating sort of differences in the test, like different results, and you made a point about the vibrations and it being done underground to avoid that, versus being done, at the top of a building or something, which would, I think you were claiming, would increase the vibrations. I thought that was a good point.
I think it's a shitty point. I think it's a dumb point.
It's literally just a ridiculous ad hoc excuse.
Yeah, I know. I got it with it.
It's like the opposite of a point. Like the point would be, hey, how do we make the test less accurate and more less discernible, so we can hide some margin of error in the inaccuracy of the measurement? And then you would find the conclusion, well, if it's better and accurate, the higher we go, let's put it as low as we can, nay, underground, and then we'll vary the lengths of the arms and the readings. We'll do everything we can to make sure the readings never reach zero, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's like clearly you just made that up because you desperately have to get rid of it. So
Vibration.
that's whatever. I mean, it's so easy to test that nonsense as well. Of course, you would just go look at the test that's not underground and see, do these magical vibrations somehow account for consistent error, which is not how it would work. So vibrations would be random and omnidirectional. So how would that help you at all? Thank you for playing.
Sounds like
If you found the Aether, please publish it, Witsit. I'll be happy to.
Hey, bro, I asked you a question, my brother.
Please invite me when you get your Nobel Prize. I always wanted to meet a king.
Hey, how would vibrations account for the results? Wouldn't it be random and omnidirectional?
Well, you're looking for a very small.
A really well thought out, well reasoned position. I'm glad you're holding it.
Yeah.
Well, the fact that they've done this experiments now for what 150 years, 140 years, and
He's gonna
have
rechant the
found
next thing.
zero evidence of Aether. Yet you guys
I didn't know
still says it exists.
How do no other ballers just be like, bro, just let it go? Like no one jumps in and is like, bro, you gotta stop.
I mean, this is fairly well settled science, Witsit. I mean, if you come with different results, then you're gonna have to come up with some damn good evidence.
Dude, all you do is like posture. You just posture.
You don't have shit.
You just
You don't-
posture and grandstand and then
You
avoid
don't
the
have-
actual point. Like having a conversation with you is basically useless, right? Because we're making. I gave a
Evidence.
very specific. I gave a very specific rebuttal to your nonsense excuse, and as opposed to like responding, you just went full implosion method and just started like freaking out.
Evidence. You need
Alright,
some
man.
evidence. If you're going to
Alright,
say
bruh.
that Aether exists, you need to have some evidence.
Can you define the
these-
word existence?
There's been zero experimental evidence of Aether. It's been done now for 140 years. Yeah, they see no Aether being. The tests show negative Aether.
Again, can you define the word existence so we can measure it?
That's it. They can't measure it. They don't.
Okay, can you define the word existence?
Yeah, it like some positive result on a test, please. Every time they go look for it, every time they go look,
existence.
yes,
In your
correct.
opinion?
That's correct.
But see, then you guys take the bait and you literally take the bait and then run around with them in this like nonsense. You know, like he's being disingenuous.
No, I'm not.
So like,
show me the test that shows Aether exists, please.
I'd rather not engage at all entirely. That'd be the
that's what I'm
best
saying.
way.
Like, bro, it's very obvious. You guys tried to come up with some excuse as to why it made sense to do it underground. We're like, okay, that wouldn't somehow explain it, right? Because vibration. That's why Jace will just act like he's just so much smarter in the chat, but he won't say anything in the VC because it's a ridiculous idea. The idea that the preferred direction. Right, so the actual propagation rate increasing relative to a preferred direction and proportionate to altitude is somehow explained by the random nature of vibrations. It's like, what? What does that even mean? Isn't there less air higher? Wouldn't there be less vibrations?
Well, the reason it made sense to me when I first heard him say it is because the fact that it is true. Like if you're in a building versus being underground, and I guess it'd be really subtle vibrations, not like. The thing is, I haven't seen the results of any of these tests. Like I saw one paper that he wrote, but you said he's done it like a whole bunch of times that I hadn't seen. So I can't really even tell you if it's that viable of a reason. I just thought it was a decent reason.
Like just apply logic.
I didn't know where he got it from though. I mean.
He made it up. But just apply logic to it. It doesn't make sense. If something's vibrating, it's going to go back and forth. Okay, so for example, the propagation rate being different is detected with a fringe shift, right? An interference pattern, as if one of the lights had to go further than the other one. It's what it looks like, right, with the interference pattern. So how would something vibrating back and forth somehow create a consistent error that is specific to direction when the vibration would be omnidirectional, right? Like it doesn't even make sense at all.
Yeah, like I said, it'd be wrong for me to make a statement on it without looking at Dingler's results and stuff like that, because I'd just be talking on my ass at this point. But and what you said made sense until I saw what they said, which is.
You got Witsit here talking on his ass. Why don't you just do the same thing? I mean, that seems to be the thing to do here.
But dude, you're projecting. Can you just admit that excuse makes no sense? Okay, let's see if you can do this. Hey, if there is a consistent change with altitude while you maintain latitude, do you agree that would refute the claim that it's caused based on the Earth spinning?
Nope, I don't agree.
It would for me. It would depend on, like I said, I could tell you, without having the results in front of me, what would compel me would be really consistency in the data. Sure, it would be somewhat compelling, depending on how consistent it was. Right,
It would be physically impossible to have the same.
Yeah.
Potentially on this.
I think we should keep. Someone act like I was out of line or something for saying that he was being disingenuous. Okay, here's my follow-up for you. Hey, if the Earth's a spinning ball and that's what causes like the drift and a gyro, right? Wait, listen. Listen. Oh, you're freaking out. Okay, and so we're at a certain latitude. Do you agree that if we change altitude but keep the same latitude, if the drift is caused by the Earth spinning, then it will stay the same no matter what altitude you're at, as long as you're at the same latitude?
Yeah, it should. But like I said, if there's, like Jay said in the chat, if there's some systematic error, then we'd have to make sure that's not occurring, or that's not the case. And
well, it's been 150 years.
I'm not claiming that Peyton Master Shield's thing is correct or anything. I just, like I said, it'd be wrong for me to make statements about it without looking at the data and really, knowing what.
Well, like you said, it's been 150 years, right? So it's been 150 years, and you guys still haven't come up with some viable explanation for systematic error. I mean, Einstein suggested temperature, then it got dunked on. Then Einstein comes back around, and he's like, it's not looking good. If there's not some other fundamental error that I can't think of, then my entire theory is wrong. So, like...
What the hell are you talking about?
You're making a claim that there is a systematic error causing a consistent preferred direction that changes with altitude.
Error. You're saying systematic error.
Well, that's what it would have to be if it's consistent.
Dude,
but there is
the idea that you're like, actually, it's always wrong in this exact way.
No, see, the problem is that you guys know better than 150 years of guys who's doing this for a living. I mean, guys who have studied science.
Field majority.
Not relative. And you sit there and you guys, yes, it is, because this is all a bunch of guys who have flunked out.
Do you have something on topic? All right, one last chance. Do you have something on topic? Go ahead.
This is exactly on topic.
Okay, go ahead. On topic.
Yeah. Again, these guys have studied this and done these experiments and have concluded there is no Aether. But the great Witsit knows it. He says there's Aether.
That was good. That was worth it. That was worth it.
Right to the heart of the subject matter.
That was good. Soundbite.
He tried hard. That was good. Yeah.
Yes, it's on topic. I'm still going to talk.
Well, he's also basing it on a preferential bias of results of the experiments. Non-negative and only a positive.
So 5,200,000 measurements, and they all show the same correlation with the equinoxes, and we're saying it's just coincidentally an instrumental error that just happened to play out that way across over 5 million measurements.
It was
it's vibration. This vibration, bro.
Where's this data? What data are you talking about? Show me.
It's been replicated in modern times. Last time you asked me for the list, I gave you the list, and then you never ever said anything about it again.
I mean, that list you gave.
Well, no, he's probably gone over it by now. Well, let's give him a chance. Okay, so you've had the list now for how long has that been? Probably been like, what do you think? Was it a few months, Matt?
3 weeks? 3 months, easy. Yeah.
Yeah,
I went over them all. Yeah, a lot of them are the Hungarian version of Witsit, who's another guy who's basically an engineer. Those were like half the references were all one guy.
No, they weren't.
Well, this is the list I'm thinking about. And
how is that even relevant? What does that matter?
Because he's an engineer who's writing on. He's not even. I mean, come on, this is in his field. It's like you commenting on stuff. How come you haven't published all this great information you have, Witsit? You're such a brainiac in this stuff. You should have papers. People should know your name. You should be up there with Newton, Einstein, Hawking, Witsit. Come on.
Yeah, take your cry somewhere else, bro. Take your cry somewhere else.
So basically, all you have is a genetic fallacy.
It's not a genetic fallacy. And no, it's coming. What do you mean by?
All right. Well, is there something actually on topic, Paid? I mean, once again,
it's on topic.
All right, you want to see the measurements of it. Okay, let's go from there. All right, he wants to see the measurements. He was given them. Maybe he's confusing which one it was. He hasn't obviously seen them, so I don't know. Do you think if we get, I don't know, how many times do you need it to be sent to you until you'll look at it? Like, is it 10 or 8 or 2? Or just maybe no one cares whether you look at it or not? Those are the options.
I just want to see if he can define genetic fallacy.
Most of the stuff is Witsit, posting stuff, and he's like Google searched it and come up with names. I mean, most of this proves, Grimm's law, Toon's first law.
Well, let's not. Let's judge it, because I actually, to be honest with you, I was about to ask you the same request, but I wasn't gonna demand it or anything. But I'm looking through the chat to see if you mentioned him or anything. I can't find it. So I mean, if you wouldn't mind, I would be real interested in seeing it. But yeah, maybe NASA, we shouldn't really judge it until we look at it, because I don't think.
Yeah, this is a well-known. It's a known phenomenon. It's just not integrated into the its actual what the actual implications are.
That's funny. Even without the implications or like the, the inferences of the conclusion, I would just be interested in the data itself, because based on these, we're looking for like mechanical errors or something like that. Or systematic errors. I mean, it would be easier to kind of come to a conclusion or an opinion about it, by actually looking at it. So I feel like I can't even really make a statement about my opinion on it if I don't even know what the data looks like.
So Einstein couldn't come up with any kind of systematic errors that could cause this, but Kosho's doing.
I would say I would come up with some theory. I mean, it's hard to have an opinion about something if it's just.
Was this in reference to what is this? What is this in reference to? So linear interferometry? Is that what?
No. Dayton Miller's and also other people's ether tests that were kind of echoing Michelson-Morley and Michelson-Gale, but finding that there was a consistent fringe with that changed with altitude.
Altitude, equinox, and direction. And you know what's so funny, man? It's like, okay, half of them were by this one guy. It's like, okay, what's wrong with the evidence? Oh, well, he was just an engineer. Okay, let's just take all those out. What about the other half? Again, none of it makes like it. Kosho, have you not ever seen the list? Is that what you're saying?
I honestly, I think I downloaded some of his papers. I remember reading at least one or two papers that I think you've probably sent from him, so I might have them downloaded. But if you say there's like a list of like millions of, because you guys say that a lot, I don't think I've seen these millions.
Well, now that we've talked about it enough and Alan's here, I'm sure in like 10 minutes there will be such a list that we can distribute and refer to, and later on we'll have like all the PDFs assembled.
So you can actually request the full list from Case Physics School or whatever. They have it in the historical archives. I've only seen like excerpts of it, and like other people's comments on the full overall data set. So like, for example, Maurice Elias did a statistical analysis on it, and James Demio did one. So those are two people that have seen like the full data set and stuff and like surmised it. Now, my takeaway from what you're trying to say about how like, systematic error and whatnot, that's like the mainstream narrative that they put forward with that Shanklin guy. So what they did is they took 3 data sets from Miller's overall work from his 5,200,000 data sets or measurements, and they took 3 data sets. 2 of them where the what was it? The diurnal time matched the sidereal time, so like the fluctuations were the same in that regard. In 2 instances, and then the third instance was from a data set from his controlled studies that wasn't even part of his published work. So they were just trying to throw that in there. So what he was doing in that controlled experiment was he was forcing an actual null result, like he was forcing that 0 reading, that coveted constant C, and they used that to like reify that like the speed of light is a constant and all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of crazy the way that they did that, because you would think like if you could like assassinate it analytically like that, you would think that they would have done that, because they had the boys to get together and try and do it, but they did like this roundabout cherry pick way, which was really kind of telling for me, in my opinion.
That's pretty suspect. Yeah, let's go to the non-published work and try to find one and point that one out. That's not suspect at all. But like, I guess what's weird to me, bro, it's like all these people have told me that these tests aren't real and don't exist. And like, bro, we floated the list around for months now. So like, I'm curious, like, are you guys not even like interested in knowing if that's the case, or is it like, if it is the case, is it just too uncomfortable, or seems weird?
I mean, I'm personally asking for it, and it could be the case that I saved it or something like that. But how do you usually present it? You like the list or whatever? Is it like a list of PDFs or a list of?
A list of the names.
Oh, it's a screenshot. I might have saved the screenshot. Let me see.
But yeah, I just put up a screenshot of a summation of the Galev test. So what he was doing was using reflectors at different altitudes, and changing the altitude at which C is propagating, basically, to see like the different layered effects of the ether wind, like that drop off of the translation of motion. You know how it gets higher at altitude and then like below sea level in a basement in a concrete room, it gets like really low, but it's still there.
No way.
Yeah. So if you look at what he did there, so A would be like the source, right? And then he hits your boy D, and then it deflects off in that at that general altitude for a while. And what they're doing is they're measuring the fluctuation of the speed of light based on the altitude before it reaches B. And
the effect gets greater when you get closer to the sky. All right, boys, let's go underground.
100%. All right, let's do all our experiments underground and then a vacuum
It's
tube.
still the perceived speed of light, though, is what they're talking about.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, perceived rate of illumination.
Hey, just curious. On this graph or whatever, is there like a line that kind of expresses the kind of accepted like value for C? I can't tell if that's being represented on there.
Not for this one.
Varying,
okay. Yeah, not for this one, but I got one exactly what you're looking for.
Okay, I'm just curious.
Yeah.
Does it ever go above that?
It's many. If what you're at, you can go to different universities and look for what you're asking for. Like that's what they strive to get.
I mean, we have a fixed value for C, so I'm just wondering if they.
So this is from the. Yeah, so this is from like a repeat Michelson-Morley with more advanced modern equipment. Do you see the true speed C there in red line? That's your C value for your constant. And every measurement they took is outside of that. That's the solid bar lines, and then the little bars are the air margin or whatever. Or the
right.
Yeah. So yeah, they never actually even measure it at C. Pretty crazy.
Well. To be fair,
again, the averages.
Go ahead, sorry.
These all look like instances of C plus V rather than C, though. What's going on with that?
Well, like I said, to be fair, there's only one measurement where it's outside of the margin of error. All the measurements actually could, based on the margin of error, and that picture you posted at least, all the measurements could perfectly be C and be valid, except for that one in the middle.
Are you gonna add in a little radius based refraction, little sauce on there?
He's posted the measurements in the error margin, and they're all inside of that.
So just add radius. Just add R.
I didn't make that error margin, man. There is one that's outside of it, and of course, the measurements don't have to be C. It's just I'm saying it's not impossible based on this data, at least for that one picture. But it's interesting still.
They can just add 6/7 now, can't they?
Maybe
9.8 meters per second squared.
I'm not even claiming anything different than the picture's expressing itself. It's expressing that the measurement could be C because it's the error margin for some of them. For that first one is huge, but you know, it's just an observation.
Yeah, you know what? Like framework matches like every observation though is a stationary, non-rotating Earth with a rotating ether. Keeps coming back to that every time, everywhere they do it, every time they try to measure it, every test they make. It's always the same. It's weird, right?
Wow, I mean, you guys should publish these information. I mean, come on, you guys could. I mean, the Nobel Prize is like $1 million.
It's already been published, my brother.
Yeah.
Well, then I mean, it's been published, and I know they haven't changed this. The fact that this ether exists or the speed of light varies or any of this shit.
Yeah, that's right. It would be detrimental to your paradigm.
Well, no, I tell you, if somebody could disprove Einstein, they would do so. I mean, there's nothing scientists would like more to do than to say I'm smart.
Oh, the sky did that, my brother.
Not when they're invested in the ententire agenda financially and in many other ways as well.
You don't know how scientists think when you say that.
We gotta love guys like this, don't we?
I think it's like incredibly lame.
You don't know how scientists think. My God,
we have to get better at not.
There's nothing they would like to do than to.
Yeah.
Hey, bro, guess what? I'm about to drop my new merch. You should totally check it out, bro. It's heliophobic. I'll send you a free shirt, bro.
You can calculate the curvature in one of those like t-shirt guns that fires up. You're launching out free tees.
So it turns out, right? Like the only possible correct interpretive framework to look at all these measurements and all these analyses is a stationary Earth. So what do you guys think about that?
Seems to be like a valid way to do it.
Like specifically the only valid way. I'm thinking.
Yeah,
but what about GPS?
Yeah. What's that thing you say, Shane? Theta prime. It's like no, there's no preferred reference frame. Oh, okay, cool. What was that reference frame that we need all covariants to match to be backwards compatible with again? Real quick, what was that one, Shane? Was that the lab frame?
Stationary lab frame? What is that?
Oh.
Like it's funny because that's what Bennett was talking about. He's like all those like Russian corroborative experiments that he brought up that we haven't heard of, they all had the same result. They had the same findings, and it all came back to the lab frame every single time. So much so that it stopped becoming surprising, right?
Yeah, it's crazy. I didn't know the Russians are based, bro. The Russians have just been sitting over there like totally based this whole time. They proved there was an ether decades ago. They're like, all right, let's cut out the GMOs. Let's make some babies. The Russians are going hard.
Debt or whatever.
I think they
Just try and cash out of the system.
Yeah, they banned GMOs. Yeah. But yeah, I didn't know about a lot of those tests. Speaking of, Xanax spoke up. Hey man, didn't you ask me? Because what normally happens is like I'll be out somewhere and they're like, this list doesn't exist. Blah, 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 blah. And I'll actually take the time to go through all my pictures on my iPhone, find the screenshot and drop it. And then they never respond. Xanax, didn't you tell me on three different occasions you were going to read through those papers?
But like, can we make like an actual list, like a copy and pastable list? Because that's what they're looking for.
Oh,
a
I got
copy
you.
and pastable
Here,
list of PDFs. Right. I figured you have the EndNote already set up, bro. Just like
it's on my GitHub. It's on my
make
GitHub.
It nice. There you go. Yeah, like make it nice, and then henceforth we can always just refer to this list, and they'll never be like ambiguous about it.
But you guys notice that their newest tactic is literally just a genetic fallacy. Right? Genetic fallacy is where you dismiss
or get your Nobel Prize. That's the only rebuttal.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
These guys are
you dismiss the argument based on the source. Yeah. It's retarded.
Yeah. So all the interferometry sources, or almost all of them, are in there. There's a couple new ones I added to that picture.
Yeah, appreciate that.
Going to be in there, but almost all of them, like that we're referencing, are in there.
Copy and pastable has been serviced.
Yeah, I mean, a valid approach is that you could replicate it, and then, of course, if you validated it, if that's what you would like to do to be able to validate that, if you need replicatable yourself. But beyond that, if you're able to replicate it as well yourself, but even if you take theirs at that value, the face value in terms of what they've done as well, either way, you then would need to come up with an entirely different model and explanation for how those measurements are actually being taken.
An entire new interpretive framework for the measurements of motion thus far ever taken. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's so fun. How convenient for them that they get to just like utilize an Aether framework and the stationary lab frame for everything.
Well, that's
and then
why
just pretend that neither exists.
That's why Einstein was so pivotal. He's like, okay, I know we have this one super important lab frame that we can't get away from that means everything, but let's just make them all equal. Here's what we'll do: we'll make them all equal. We'll translate back and forth, and we'll go from there. Everyone cool? All right.
Yeah, give this man a prize.
Nope. Change the laws of physics, bending and warping a space-time. Off we go.
Hey, have you guys? I'm just curious because I'm gonna look through and search for all of these. But have you guys had any trouble getting access to any of these? Like, or maybe a bunch of them or something like that, or have you? Got
if you go to my GitHub, you'll see a V2 there for the releases. Just download that zip. It has all the PDFs in it.
Oh, really? All of them? Wow.
Yeah, because they're all like some of those are behind paywalls, can't get them, blah blah blah, that kind of shit. But if you have any paywall issues, let me link you the websites I use real quick because you can just bypass that in like 2 seconds. It's no problem. Just for future reference.
Use that.
What are you talking about? You talking about Sci-Hub?
Yep.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Sci-Hub, it's hit or miss.
The other thing you can do is there's a school in California that you can sign up for classes. It takes like it's a process, but basically you'll get a student ID, and it allows you to get through some paywalls at least.
Yeah,
the
but
conclusions are out there. You can easily find them, but the data sets are payable.
Yeah, so Kosho, are you prepared to come up with an entirely new model that somehow now has to account for this? That would still fit with all of your previous understandings of what your current thoughts are of your understandings of things?
First of all, I haven't read one of these papers, first of all. And if I did read them and I did become convinced by them, that wouldn't be my responsibility. Although I would be compelled to search for one, sure. But I doubt that I'd be the one who came up with the model that replaced the one that I currently, my current paradigm, right?
Have you ever considered, instead of just desperately looking for another excuse, like to maybe just accept that the model is just wrong?
And I admit that it's wrong. But in the same way, Churchill said that, democracy is the worst form of government except for all the other ones. This model may be wrong, but it's the best one we have.
So all those wrongs make it so right? All those wrongs make it right?
In lieu of any other explanation, you go with the one that makes the most sense. So,
but we're literally in the process of explaining that another one makes sense. Right.
And that the one you have does not work.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Wouldn't best be like, are you saying best based on some type of standard that you're holding things to? And you're reviewing a bunch of things and you say, well, this one's the best. Or are you just saying it's the best because it's the one that's continually taught?
It's better than the other ones, and better.
What other
as
ones have you looked into that you disagree with?
It's hard to give you my answer when.
Yo, Kosho, I'm cracking up still at the Winston Churchill quote. That was great. I love that.
Yeah, well, better as in, by the metrics of it explains more things accurately. It predicts the world we live in more accurately than any other model. So that's how you would compare them, not like based on emotion or something.
You mean except for the part that how it doesn't work at all?
Yeah.
No, it works better than every other one, is what I'm saying. So
what about the one that
if I find a better one?
What about the one that says we use the stationary lab frame because there's a stationary lab frame?
The one that's actually used for engineering. With engineering and building and crafts.
So within the model that assumes a stationary lab frame, what doesn't work as well in that model that works better within the model of relativity?
Excellent question.
Well, I'm better. Yeah. I mean, and I'm not even just talking relativity. I'm talking about the Earth moving and.
No, let's answer that specific question.
Yeah, I know, but if you're talking about every model that I hold, then that's a different question. But I thought you were talking about the stationary Earth compared to, the Earth that's moving around the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah, I think my question was pretty
not
simple
at all
when I said. Yeah, I think my question was pretty simple when I said when I said compared to the model with a stationary lab frame, so with the lab frame, compared to that and relativity, which instances within the model using a lab frame do you think don't work as well as they do in relativity? What aspects?
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. So you're asking me if I keep relativity, which model works best, the stationary or the moving one?
He's asking you what advantage does relativity have over that one?
They're confusing the station.
No, hold on. Hold on. You just rewrote the question, Kosho. You just rewrote the question.
Twice.
So
twice. Yeah, asked me about the stationary frame and about it in terms of relativity.
Let me rephrase the question.
I mean, it's a really hard thing to respond to, so I'll give you that as a break, but you got to at least give it a shot.
Well, that's what it sounds like he's asking.
Lab frame.
All right, let him ask it again. Let him ask it again, and then see if you can respond directly to it. Because I think you tried to like steel man it, Kosho, but you kind of like wrote a whole new question, and then you started answering that one. And it's just, to be fair, it's not exactly what he was alluding. What he was.
Fine. I mean, that's what I understood it as. So what's it said he could rephrase it. So
fair enough.
Oh, I want to take a bite. What advantages does the relativistic model have over that stationary lab frame model? It's pretty simple.
You hopefully not thinking that.
Yeah, as being a better predictive
stationary.
model. Hold on, Zanuck. That's not really your cue. Hold on, because he was going to respond. Go ahead, Kosho.
But you guys have been making this
No, but
mistake.
that's why the question's.
Yeah.
That's why the question's confusing, because it sounds like you're asking me about the stationary, right? Stationary lab frame, as if the Earth's stationary.
I think
right?
yeah, what predictive
That's-
advantage does relativity have over that, since your entire primary argument was that it is the best one, it's better than all the other ones? Okay, well, we just gave you one. We're saying, okay, how so? What's the predictive ability, like what's the advantage of prediction that relativity has over that one?
Yes.
Okay.
That's it.
So, okay, yeah, you're comparing relativity versus a stationary lab frame. So that's why it's confusing, because that's encompassing more than one model. But regardless, it makes a lot of
It's not about confusion. The thing is, how does the relativistic one give any added benefit or advantage as being the quote unquote best predictable model? Where are the delineating
But
factors?
the alternative was the stationary one. So that's why it's confusing. But
Well, yeah, the answer is obvious, actually. It doesn't at all, because relativity has to say that basically there is a stationary lab frame for all intents and purposes relative to reference frame.
Don't say it's stationary.
Well,
Not stationary. It's a lab frame.
There's plenty of
Doesn't mean it's
predictions.
They bake it in there. They bake it in a reference frame.
They treat it as stationary,
that
buddy.
frame. When it's in the lab, that frame, whatever, considering that stationary and everything's relative to that frame, it doesn't have to be stationary. Absolutely. It's just a lab.
Do we treat the lab frame as stationary?
Yes, for the tests they're doing, they are. Yes.
For all
for all
tests
tests ever.
and observable reality, all measurements.
It could be moving at 66,000 miles an hour through the galaxy.
Okay, so now we've gotten back to that question. Now we got back to the question.
Fast moving air. That is some fast moving air. Like we get some heavy winds. I would say that's fast moving air, but that speed is, oh my gosh.
So you guys agree relativity has no advantage over that one at all intrinsically, right? So I guess even the better question to kind of help you guys out here is like, what predictive advantage does the heliocentric model have over a stationary Earth model?
Well, that's a more exact question, because like I said, the other one was kind of two models in one, whereas that model makes more sense. But an obvious answer is one that I already addressed earlier, which is stellar aberration, for instance. Stellar aberration is explained by the Earth moving and not explained by it being stationary.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So is stellar aberration the relative motion between the stars and the Earth?
It's not relative motion. It's the effect of the Earth moving in reference to the light coming down on us.
It's the relative motion of stars and Earth.
Well, no, not really, because it's like the slanted effect of moving while the light's moving towards us. So it's not just one movement, basically. Like it's okay. Already,
so what about if the stars are moving?
Let me think if that would still apply. I mean, no, it wouldn't. No, it shouldn't apply. I mean, if the light should be coming at us in one angle, so that doesn't really make sense.
They're moving.
Like, so there's a point where they're coming and they're going. You redshift, blue shift, right?
No, it's just the same as with parallax, bro. It's like the stars are moving instead of the Earth. So that isn't in any way exclusive. So basically, your position is, well, sure, we have to use your model for everything, but my model says, well, it's just going to look like that, but it's really not like that.
Sounds crazy when you say it like this.
It's like, it's like, hey, what's the aberration? What's the advantage of making pilots think that they're flying over a spinning ball when they're only trained to fly over a stationary level Earth?
Fair question, but real quick, we don't use the other model, though, is what I'm saying. Like, stellar aberration is only explained by the Earth moving in reference to the light coming down, right? And that's one, but the stellar parallax is basically an inference of moving, because we can only make that measurement because the distance change. So that wouldn't even apply if only the stars are moving. We have to move.
Negative.
It's just so weird.
Angles are the same.
Yeah. Like, it's like, you
posted the
understand.
graphic for it.
Thank you. Yeah. It's like, okay, you guys are saying that the stars are just sitting there, light's coming down to us, we're flying through space, so it's causing aberration. The alternative is that the Earth is just sitting there. The stars are coming down to us and moving, causing the angle change.
Why wouldn't it just come in one angle though? If the light was moving and coming towards us, why wouldn't it just be the single angle?
Because it moves throughout the year. It changes throughout the year. That's what aberration is. Do you think we just look up there and we're like, oh, boom, we see it moving? That's not what happened. It's throughout the year.
Yeah, but the only reason why the slant is explained is because we're moving while we're receiving the light. I don't think it would make sense if the light was moving that it would create like a slanted, direction from its normal position. We were to see it in its normal position. That makes more sense to me. But also the stellar parallax, we have to change our distance by a significant amount, which doesn't make sense with the stars moving. Like the entire frame of the stars would need to move that same distance for that to make sense, right?
What? That same distance?
The stellar parallax is based on measurements that use the base part of the triangle as being 100. What is it? Yeah, 180 something million miles, right? 186 or something. So if
scroll up, the angles are the same on a geocentric Earth. You're just assuming that baseline for it. You can do the same thing without it.
Is Ares failure the experiment with the telescope full of water that showed the opposite?
that's the Ares.
Talking about Ares success.
You're right.
Talking about the experiment where they failed to adjust the telescope as much as required to prove a globe. Yeah, I remember that one.
Well,
you talking about Ares nailed it?
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. He didn't fail. He didn't fail measuring aberration of the stars. So, in a way, it indeed showed the movement of the Earth. It just didn't show the effect that he was looking for.
No, he had a minuscule correction angle that was outside of what they needed to prove the globe.
Yeah, but it wasn't to prove the globe.
Yeah, it was to prove the motion of the Earth through the ether. Again, it was like another classic. Yeah, it was another classic. What do you call it? Null result for the motion of the Earth, not for the ether.
Why do they do this? They always say it's not about the motion, it's about the ether. Bro, it's the motion relative to the ether.
Yeah.
So we're actually measuring the fringe shift based on the motion. The motion causes the fringe shift because the ether is just the reference frame in which you're measuring against. I don't understand why you guys still say that.
It's like they pretend to not know what ether means.
No, the aberration is a measurement of the movement. That's why. So the fact that he still measured that shows that he didn't fail at showing that the Earth moves. He showed that it failed at moving through the ether. I mean, clearly.
Oh my god. Oh my god. It's just like the Michelson-Morley thing, right?
Yeah.
It's exactly like that.
So here's the clear up the why is it always the reference through the ether situation, right? Because it's gonna be relative to the medium that you're moving through. So the same way that GPS has an inherent velocity correction built into it by the nature of a person moving through the ether, where the velocity of light will be delayed proportional to their movement. That's the same thing that they were looking for, but they couldn't find the amount that they needed to correspond to the correctness of the Copernican principle. They could only find slight amounts.
Well, knowing the distances we know to planets, forget about the stars. Do you understand the velocities that they'd be traveling and the forces that would be needed?
Dude, you just skate past the direct refutation and change
I haven't said anything all night, and you just run all over me.
You're just changing the subject. You just stomped all over his point and then just laughed at it and changed the subject. What are you doing?
Yeah, I mean, Zanuck, if you have something on topic, but yeah, you can't just derail the whole thing. But yeah, go ahead, Alan, or someone if someone was going to respond.
Yeah, so it was just opened in regards to like why it's always in reference to the ether, and then people will say, well, that framework failed the ether. It failed to detect the ether. Well, no, it failed to detect the relative motion that would be required. If the Earth was in motion at that speed. If the ether was in motion and the Earth was stationary, there would be slight varying effects, and that's what we get. And then the whole idea of like Michelson-Morley removed the ether is kind of retarded when you realize GPS explicitly functions based off of the inherent way that we're moving through the ether vortex, right? So there's a delay. There's a delay proportional to your velocity inherently in that first measurement. That's why they had to come up with that whole ECI reference frame to get rid of all that stuff. I don't know if you caught that, Kosho, but like,
I was explaining that to somebody. Sorry,
we got to the bottom. Yeah, I was gonna say we got to the bottom of it, bro.
But somebody brought that. Somebody brought it up earlier, and
I did.
It's not a weird. That's not a. The only reason they do that correction is so they don't have to make any time dilation like errors or corrections from that. All they're doing is they're just transferring from the plane that the craft is orbiting in, because they want to get its position to the position you are on Earth. So it transfers that coordinate system into one that it makes sense with the Earth, which is the ECI frame. But then they just changed that to the ECEF frame because the Earth's rotating.
Yeah, for fun. They just did a whole transformation for fun. So in this paper that I just linked here, they actually make no relativistic corrections in GPS at all, because they don't have to at all, because all the classical effects are exactly the same, and they say that basically special and general relativity cancel each other out, so that they don't have to account for it. So they don't account for any of the things that you're talking about. Like, that's not the issue at all. The issue that they had was that C was faster than what it's supposed to be, and they didn't know how to deal with that because everyone has moved on from the ether theory, and so they can't just outright do that. So they came up with a reference frame where the Earth is rotating with the stars, so it's like stationary. So it's rotating stationary with the ether, so that the speed of light can be actually C in your guys' reference frame.
That's
and
the
then,
ECI.
And then obviously the measurement they get varies due to the proportion, or varies proportionally due to the velocity of the receiver. So they have a remainder on that C value. So when they transfer out of that reference frame, they just apply that as a quote unquote velocity correction that appears out of thin air in the EF reference frame that they don't have to explain. And
where'd you get that remainder?
Yeah, you could see this in the modern ICD documents, where like in the 90s they were like, yeah, there's a Doppler frequency proportional to the velocity of the observer, which is basically them saying that the speed of light changes proportional to the velocity of the observer. And then, like, obviously that's not good, so you can't just have it in that kind of plain English. So now they have it in documents where they just show a graph for it, and they just have this velocity velocity correction on the other end of it, where they're like,
boom, there it is.
Like, boom, we just have your accurate information. Like,
it's so funny. It's so funny. I was laughing so hard.
Just out of a transformation with no corrections. So
because this is like the crux of Alan's whole thing of why he started looking into this, and it's the question that drove him to do all the research and the cavalier way that you offhand asked him. That's why I was laughing so hard. Sorry, I was like, oh, Alan's gonna answer.
Well, no, I did, but here's the problem now. So it's actually fairly simple. Like, it's not. You're right. There's not a relativistic correction. This transformation is done so you don't have to make a relativistic correction, because what happens is the time that it gets sent from the craft is in the reference frame of the craft. So you have to start with that reference frame, and the reference frame of the craft has the coordinates of its orbit. So you convert
GPS time is universally synced, bro. There's no
but it's sent. But it's sent
in a different time.
It's sent from the craft though. The craft actually sends the message. So the time that it leaves the craft is going to be in the frame of that craft's reference frame. You're right. So, all the clocks are synced, but the time that's being sent is specifically from that craft. So that message that your receiver is going to get is going to be in reference to when it was sent from that craft, and that's why they transform that to a coordinate system, so that it's not in the orbital plane anymore. So it takes orbital coordinates, converts that to a XYZ plane, and it takes that XYZ plane, converts that to the ECI frame, the one where Earth is stationary, in reference to the stars, because it only does that because it needs to transfer it to you on Earth, and all it does once it's done the ECI frame is use Greenwich Mean Time to turn the Earth to wherever it needs to turn it to.
You almost done?
That's it.
All right.
Well, I mean, you went for a while. I just wanted to explain one thing.
No, you're right. You're good. So
I was quiet the whole time.
So, yeah, I appreciate that. I'm sorry, I got impatient. So in the ECI reference frame, that first reference frame that they take the measurement in, they have the distance down accurate to the millimeter in that first measurement. There's no need for any corrections or transformations. They could do it in the ECI reference frame themselves. It's all synced to the same time system called GPS time. So there's no variance in different, we got to take it to Greenwich Mean Time. And that also, even if they did, let's say that's true, doesn't explain the proportional velocity that's correction that's already inherently in there based on the remainder from the transformation from the ECI frame. So there's still that. Assuming what you said is true about the logistics of the transformation, doesn't apply the proportional velocity corrections, nor does it help the case of relative simultaneity, because GPS doesn't take any accounting for that. Everyone receives their events in a cohesive timeline. It doesn't matter if they're moving relative to anyone else or who's moving relative to anyone or who's stationary. Everything happens, So it's a complete falsification of relativity on all fronts, my man.
No, but what you said about the simultaneity, that's why they used the frame of the craft, because instead of taking the signal and then reading it from a different frame, you make the transforms starting with the satellite's frame, so that you don't have to worry about those corrections.
I think you're getting lost in this hypothetical transformation mythology. So they already have the distance in the first measurement. They already have the distance down to the millimeter in the first frame. There's no need for any other transformations.
Yeah, but it's not going to be able to know where the craft was, though. It's going to know the distance. It's not going to know where the craft was.
Dude, it's a range measurement equation. It takes a snapshot and codes it in there. So it doesn't. What are you talking about, my dude?
The craft's position. So let's say you have your GPS receiver wherever you are. You want to know where you are. You need to know the distance. That's going to come in the time difference between the receiver and the signal. But it needs to know where the craft is in reference to where where the Earth is, where you are. Otherwise, you're not going to know what that distance represents. And that the position that it gets is in its frame, its orbital plane, which is why it converts those coordinates to your frame, so that it can then tell the relationship between where it is and where the Earth, the rotating Earth is, right? Otherwise, there's no way to communicate that position to the actual Earth. I mean, does that make sense?
No, because they don't need to do that at all. It already works functionally without that. You're adding secondary steps and including a measure to say that they have to do it for some reason that doesn't apply. It functionally works without all of that.
Listen, I'm trying to respond to somebody else at the same time, but
good. So
let me say this real quick, and then I'll let you talk while I go do something real quick. But
you're straight.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah, the only way, if you think about it like this, the distance is being gotten by the time difference, right? But how is that distance going to be translated to where the satellite is and where that represents the position on Earth to be? Let's say the satellite just happens to be directly over New York City. How is it going to know that it's directly over New York City? It has to translate its position to the Earth's frame and where the surface of the Earth currently is in reference to its frame, right?
Quick question before you head out. So does the GPS ask the receiver how fast he's moving so when it transfers into the ECEF reference frame, it can go ahead and add that correction in as well, or no?
That's in the clock. I mean, that's in the message. I mean, all that information's in the entire message.
Well, that's the thing.
It's information, and it's got the speed of all the other crafts as well.
Yeah, that's not okay.
Yeah, that's a huge issue.
I could dissect all the data with you and the whole code. That's definitely in there. It's in every message.
Yeah, but that's just a value given to you. That's the problem. You're just being given that value, and hoping that timing is actually what it that it is actually correct. And when it's already gone through corrections, you're getting dirty socks. You're getting dirty laundry. It's already been transferred behind the scenes. You're just being given those timestamps. You're not actually independently acquiring the time difference. You're just interpreting and taking their value that they give you of what that timestamp is as valid as, but that's already the books have already been cooked on that value that you're being.
Loud
I heard what you
corrections in
said.
there.
I heard what you said, but with that I've always said this. People who say this, that doesn't make any sense because the information that it's sending you is all you're using to determine your position. And so for some reason that information is falsified or incorrect or whatever, then what would happen is it wouldn't be able to tell you where you were accurately or at all, right? So it doesn't really make sense.
Well, after a coordinate system transformation or two, I mean, it could make it work.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and then the fudge difference is, yeah, and you haven't checked every GPS location to confirm that it fits with a globe. You're going off all kinds of assumptions when it comes to that. So, but I do agree that like there would have to be some discrepancies in the model that they give for GPS and the actual readings linked with the actual distances on Earth, because obviously a globe is going to have different geometry than, planar surface or other types of geometries. So,
well, it's notably not just any transformation, right? It's specifically a transformation to a coordinate system in which everything theoretically moves exactly with the Earth.
Yeah, right. So Kosho is pretty much positive that the significance of the ECI frame, instead of, as we and Bennett said, sinking stars to the Earth and negating the convenient c plus v speed of directional light necessity, negates all that. Instead of that being the purpose, that ECI frame is actually the need of other GPS to transmit its own location. Is that what you're saying?
No. That's, first of all, that part of the transformation, the transformation completely is from the satellite, that specific satellite's orbital plane, and it's the different Kepler, what do they call it, Keplerian coordinates. Those are strange when you try to change that to XYZ coordinates. So you got to first convert those to XYZ coordinates. Then you got to convert that to ECI coordinates because it's basically one transformation, and these are the steps in between. Because the final transformation has to be the ECEF, and it's much easier to transfer the satellite's coordinates from its orbital plane into a fixed coordinate system that represents the stars, not the Earth, in reference to the fixed sky. So once you do it, to change it to ECEF, all you have to do is twist it. So it's just the transformation is only in one axis. So it's just a simple way of doing that. So the ECI frame is really just a means to an end. It's not really in itself. It's there's no
foundation of the whole thing. That's the foundation.
No, it's not really. If you could otherwise transform it without that, you could do that, but you would have to bring up these relativistic corrections and all that kind of stuff. Well, you don't have to do that because you're keeping the same frame from the original satellite. So this is why you don't have to do that.
That's not why you don't have to do it. So
I've done this with the data, so I can show it to you firsthand. But you can show me what you're talking about or what else. But I mean, it only makes sense that this is the case, right? It doesn't make sense that this is like done for some sort of trickery or something. Actually, you wouldn't even use the Earth as a sphere as a reference at all to do this, right? So that I don't understand what the alternative is, right? Or how
I realize we're not currently talking about if it's a sphere or not.
Sure, yeah, but I don't understand what's the contention then with why would it debunk relativity if just because it's being used? It's only being used because they're trying to make a transformation into a coordinate system that you're not going to have to worry about these weird corrections that you're going to need to make.
No,
you're actually going to end up with
any
errors.
of those corrections, bro. They specifically say that general and special relativity cancel each other out in some magical way such that only classical effects need to be taken into consideration. They don't even sync the atomic clocks to Einsteinian dog. They literally account for the velocity of the craft. They have a little thing in there that just accounts for the Sagnac effect within the clock with the motion of the craft. Basically, is what they're doing. There's a whole paper on it by Paul Marmont where he exposes it, breaks it down, shows the equation, shows how it reduces back to it's literally just the Sagnac correction. Like it's the whole mythology of like GPS has anything to do with Einstein is like kind of retarded at this point. Like saying that they do it for the convenience of no. I know. I'm just saying in general for anyone who seems to think that, because a lot of people seem to think that GPS somehow proves Einstein. So it doesn't at all. And then the transformations that you're talking about don't have anything to do with relativistic effects. All the frames that you're talking about would have to be dynamically covariant with the lab frame anyway. So like what are you even saying, bro?
Okay, so let me try to say this as clear as I can, because you're agreeing with what I'm saying, but you're not at the same time. So I don't. That when you say that, there's this magic way where you don't have to deal with that for some reason. The magic way is what I'm talking about. This isn't. This isn't
a
the
paper that explicitly says
hold on.
That's not what you're saying, though.
So but this isn't a correction. This is
yeah.
Hold on a second. This isn't a correction for relativity. It's not. This is the purpose of this is to make sure you don't have to worry about anything like that. It's to make sure that you're only using the craft's frame, the craft's speed, the craft's position in reference to the ground. So when you receive it, you're receiving a signal that you can now reference the craft's frame, and the timing will be based on that. There's no relativistic corrections because you're using a distance and a time that of light moving at sea in reference to where the craft was. So it's like it's the simplest way. It's the simplest way of not worrying about it.
Okay. So as even assuming if that was true, which it's not, it just hides the velocity correction, bro. Like it could do it in any frame. If no relativistic corrections are required, then it doesn't matter at all. And if all frames are equally valid, then they could certainly do it in any frame. They don't need to do two transformations to it. It's just for the explicit reason of covering up the fact that there's an additional velocity to the speed of light that's proportional to your velocity, or a delay, or a delay to it. Like there's a variance to c that's proportional to how fast you're moving. That's the purpose of it, of the whole frame.
Right, but see, you're saying that you don't that all the frames are valid, and so you can use any of them. But that's the point: is you want to use a frame. You want to use one frame. Hold on, dude. Because this is the important part. The reason why you keep the single frame and you transform them is because if you do that, you don't have to. There's no disagreements with any of the frames. You're basically using the same frame.
They have to apply corrections you're using this fact, bro. What are you?
No, but you're using the same frame the whole time. You're using the ship's frame and transforming it to the Earth as rotating, which means you don't.
I concede. You're right. I concede. You're right.
Okay. I mean, do you see what I'm saying though? There's not two frames are disagreeing.
No, but I'm really like I can't I like you, Kosho. You're a good ass dude. Yeah, and I don't, and I get super impatient, and I don't want to like get mad or like take it out on you. So like,
how would you get mad? I mean,
because you talk you talk really slow. You go on for a long time, and it's not even accurate about what we're saying. And then like now we're on like a borderline repetition of the same thing that you keep saying that doesn't apply. And then like now you're trying to add in extra factors to it and say like different. It's like it's fair. It's annoying, right? It's frustrating for me. So I'm sorry.
All right, man. Well, sorry to annoy you, dude. But what I'll do is I'll put this together in a way that you can digest on your own time. It's fairly simple, and so you're agreeing with what I'm saying without saying that it's.
Well, no, I mean I get what you're saying though. You're saying that the transformation is necessary and that C is the same in all reference frames and it's all good. I'm saying it covers up the fact that there's an additional variance to C that's getting covered up, and then they just output it in this other frame and have it with a magic velocity correction.
Yeah, dude. The importance of the ECI is that it negates the need for C plus V. It hides that. That's the whole point we're saying.
Like that's the point of the frame. The point of the frame isn't to do with relativistic corrections and all that shit, because GPS doesn't even function that way.
He says that it's something else. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fucking. Yeah, it's just. Yeah.
This whole thing started arguing about what the significance of the ECI frame was. Kosho honestly started with his own idea of what he thought it was, but I'm not sure it has any backing in the global community or any scientific research. I think he just thinks that because he loves GPS. I don't know. I haven't heard it from anyone else.
Have you guys ever dealt with the GPS at all? Like
I
the
mean,
messages, receiving the messages, or anything like that.
Bennett seems to share the significance of what he thought the ECI frame was used for in reference to GPS. And I know we also found that was the significance of the ECI frame in relation to the GPS. So I don't know.
Yeah, they need the
Has he
actual
done that?
ECI frame. Yeah, they need the ECI frame to get the actual readings, the real timings of what's really happening, and then they end up putting it through the transforms, and then the timestamps that they give you when you receive the signal are then already calculated to fit their model.
How dare you, Geo?
Nailed it.
Well, no, that's just not true though. Like the exact
well, that's what we
exact
started with.
the order of transformations is from the orbital plane to the ECEF, and the ECI is just the third step in that transform. It's really just a means to an end.
Incorrect.
It's definitely the third step because you have to convert the Keplerian coordinates into XYZ coordinates. That's the second step.
It's the first step. It's the frame which the measurement's taken in, my dude. It's the first. It's the first train car in the train, dog. Like it's the first one you get on.
But it isn't though. The satellite's coordinates are in Keplerian coordinates. Its own coordinates. Like it's in its own coordinate system, and then it transforms that to the other, the Earth frame. But we don't have to go back into it.
No, you're good. Let's read this off real quick. GPS is a timing ranging system. The operations of GPS are based on a range measurement equation in the Earth-centered inertial frame (ECI), with the idealized air-free situation, and then he gives the range measurement equation, which I won't go into, which we all already know. It's just encoding your coordinates and the time in which the signal is being sent, and then it's getting the variance between those two. So, and then he goes on to explain that. Let's see. So here, TS is the instance of the transmission signal from the source. TR is the instance of reception from the receiver. T sub R. Anyway, it gets into the how they derive the time difference. So, highly successful practices of GPS, especially in its unprecedented precision in measuring the distance up to the order of a millimeter, equivalent to measuring time up to the order of 0.1 nanoseconds, has proved the correctness of GPS's range measurement equation and its accuracy. So in that first reference frame, and then here we go. So this, let's see. So here we should emphasize 3 important points first. The correct coordinate frame for the range measurement equation is the Earth-centered inertial frame. Why is that? Because it measures the variance of the speed of light. And then they transform that, and then they take that remainder, and then they go, here's the velocity correction that just came out of nowhere.
Yep. Only
so
in that frame does it not matter.
Not only is it not the third step, it's the fucking, it's how it works. It's the first step. Like,
well, that's skipping over because it literally has its coordinates in its orbital plane. Like I'm just telling, that's its coordinates. It transforms that into the ECI frame.
That's just the coordinate system, brother. That doesn't mean a dang thing.
That's the information it has is its position in its orbit.
He's really hung up on that, man.
I mean, that's just the truth.
So
I can show you with the data.
Did you say you were going to dip for a bit?
No, I didn't say that. You told me that you were getting annoyed or something. So
I know. I'm sorry. It was just getting super circular because we were just like repeating each other, and then but not. You know what I mean?
Well, I thought it was interesting that he had a differing perspective on the significance of the ECI frame that I haven't heard repeated by anyone, right? So it's interesting to have good discussions with interesting people with unique perspectives.
Well, let me ask you a question. Do you think that the message that comes from the receiver, do you think that message contains its position in the ECI frame?
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's what I'm saying is wrong. That it only has its reference to its orbit. Yeah, so that the transform has to start there, and then you're right though. The first step from transforming it from ECI to ECEF that has to happen, but the information that it has isn't in reference to the ECI.
Yeah, it is. It just says it in the thing that I just read. That it's directly in that. Like, what do you mean? What? How do we get back
to you the message, man?
How do we get out of that?
How do we break the loop? It's all right. I mean, I meant to wrap it up and move on. I didn't mean to reopen it. I meant to summarize it nicely and then move on to other cool points about Aether.
Oh yeah. What's your? Oh yeah. So anyway, Tuesday at 7. So tomorrow, you guys can pull up and ask Bennett, about it himself. be nice, obviously.
I originally showed up to share that with Kosho when I heard people asking about the experiment and the measurements and the Robert Bennett stuff. It's definitely going to be there tomorrow. We're going to keep it, I think, basic, low, and low key, maybe.
Nah, it's going to the highest possible key.
Oh yeah, you want to I don't know, man. It's your show, I guess. Do what you want.
I mean, if people get wild, dog, they just get slapped.
Yeah, I guess you could be. Bennett seems like he could hang, to be honest.
Dude, Bennett's a G, bro. He knows about some stuff, dude. Like, if you seen what he sent me, like you would be impressed,
dude. So he's an old retired G, man.
Yep.
Nice.
Yep.
He's gonna work on that moon landing, I think. Maybe.
I can't wait. No, he's not. I can't wait till Kosho retires, bro. He's gonna be a flat earther in no time.
You think it's holding him up now? Is his what?
Yeah,
dedication to...
dude. As soon as he retires from the CIA or whatever, I'm just messing with you, Kosho. But yeah, as soon as he retires, he'll definitely come around.
Kosho's super young, dude. He's got a long way to retire.
Nah, dude. He'll be retired in a couple years. All the overtime he's putting in, dog.
I'll send you something about the message here in a minute. I'll send you
Kosho, you get a timestamp in a relation to a satellite in an orbit that they claim is actually happening.
Right.
Right. So they give you data
that's the Keplerian coordinates
in the other frame, but that's so it can reference. That doesn't mean it was derived from the thing we're talking about, which is the basis for the whole argument, right?
Oh. Well, no, it's not. Okay, so it's the Keplerian coordinates are first turned into XYZ coordinates, and then it's transformed onto the ECI frame. It's an important step, but so what you're talking about is not untrue. It does go from ECI to ECEF, but the message has to be received first, and it's got to convert the actual coordinates it has into the ECI frame. Your receiver will do that.
Did you have a corroborative paper citation that you could for your counterpoint to Alan's other one? Because I don't.
So I'll show you the actual the real message comes.
Just like a paper references that's the order of operations that refutes Alan's previous paper of the other order of operations.
His order of operations wouldn't be incorrect. It's just there's steps before that. Is what I'm saying. So I'm going to show you the actual message that comes and what part of the message refers to the position of the craft and what coordinate system its position is referencing.
What's your guys' favorite coordinate system?
The one that fucking matters. The one that only matters.
I like the Narnian coordinate system.
Right? The magical land of coordinate system transforms where data has no meaning and scale is only covariant.
As long as it appears to be covariant. But yeah, that's what's up, man.
That's the whole point, though, guys. Right? Is that with coordinate system transforms, you literally can take measurements and move it back and forth seamlessly to coordinate systems, spherical, cylindrical, mechanical. It doesn't matter. Back and forth, and all the way it goes. No data is lost. Right? That's the point of a covariant transformation. That's the significance of coordinate system transforms, and that's the damage Einstein did by removing that prime lab frame of all non-motion with all motion is measured and saying that it's actually irrelevant and everything's equal.